Well, hello. Welcome to Code Live. My name is Kevin Poorman, and today I have with me my colleague Mo. Mo, you want to introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, my name is Mohit. I go by the name Mo. I work with developer relations here. I'm a developer advocate and really excited about the second session here, the second code live on building Salesforce plus Slack apps.
And when we last left our heroes, we had spun up a Scratchwork, we'd spun up a Slack workspace, we'd spun up a Heroku app, and we did all of that with pretty much automated with the excellent deploy script that Mo has put together. And when we last left off, we were trying to figure out how to get into a debug mode in local development. And what we discovered was we've done it in the past, and we couldn't remember the exact sequence of things to get there, but we figured it out, and we want to show you how to do it. So the first thing you want to do is hit Command-Shift-P, and you're going to have this debug toggle auto attach. So you want to do debug toggle auto attach, and when you hit it, you've got options: temporary, always, smart. Choose smart, and I just click on it. Okay. The second thing you need to do is open your debugger, run and debug panel over here on the side, and you can choose the Node.js line. And one of these you'll have down here is JavaScript debug terminal. And you click that, and it will open. I already have it open, but it will open up for you a new terminal window, and you can navigate to your app. And if you run Node app.js like we were running before and hit enter, it will then say debugger attached. You'll see the debugger stuff going on. Here are this is a little mobile window. You can move this little bit around, but this is our pause. Dive into our standard debugger tools. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come over into my Who Am I controller, and I'm going to put a breakpoint here. I'm just going to click to the left of the line number, and if I go over to my Slack workspace and I now trigger my shortcut, it kicks me back over here, and I'm going to go ahead and hit next. Here's my controls. Hit next, and it gave me an error, and that error is happening because I was too slow, basically. If I turn this off, if I turn off this debugger and I do that again, you'll see that it works just fine. So, yep, see, there you go. So we have local development working, and we have debugging of our local development working, and I think we're actually ready to start building significant and meaningful features to our travel approval app. What do you think, Mo?
Yeah, I think this is fantastic. One of the things I think one of the things we will save a lot of time now is we don't have to go back and deploy everything to Heroku to test anything, right? So we're writing the code, we're debugging, and we just keep going.
I like it. So
Yep.
where should we start on building a Slack app, Mo? Other than the authentication bits, which we've worked out here between Salesforce and our Slack workspace.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what we should start is actually building the app homepage,
Okay.
and we need an authorize with Salesforce button there on the app homepage. And then when we click on that button, it should take us to Salesforce. We log in with our username and password, and then we come back to a specific URL, the redirect URL, obviously the one that we will indicate in the connected app. And then from there, we will have to store that token securely inside Salesforce. So one of the things we did not sort of explain in the previous stream was we want to keep the Heroku app stateless. When I say stateless, no data stored anywhere except for, let's say, secure information or secure variables or environment variables. Those can have information about some of these tokens in the environment variable. That's it. So one of the ways to do this is, again, if you want to manage authentication and other pieces of the data, you can obviously create a database like Postgres on Heroku, and then store your tokens there. But we thought, instead of doing that way, we'll just use Salesforce for everything. That way, we are not sort of exposing those Salesforce tokens on Heroku database.
Let me pause there for a second, because some people may be confused. We have this automatically set up, and we set up with the script and everything to use a JWT token to connect at basically a server-to-server access layer. Our Bolt middleware running on Heroku can access our Salesforce instance using the JWT, and that's tied to one particular user, an integration user in Salesforce. But we don't want to use that integration user for all of the things, because we want Mo to be able to go in there and put in his travel approval request, and me to put in my travel approval request, and to have them show up as different users having taken that action. So what we're trying to set up here is the pre-work for us to be able to not only log in not only to authenticate at a server-to-server level, but also use that server-to-server connection as a data store access to store user-to-user access. Okay.
Exactly. User-to-user access. And we will have to, and one of the ways I was thinking is somehow we will need to figure it out, like we will have to encrypt those tokens before it actually goes to Salesforce.
That's easy with
Salesforce. And then decrypt it as well. Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, so things that we want to build, right, is the home page. And Kevin, one of the docs that I've been following up is the Slack Bolt SDK documentation. So if you don't mind opening that, because that's where I think I will. The Slack's Bolt SDK, just say Slack Bolt SDK Node.js.
Node.js. All right.
So
I think this is what we're looking for. The second
one. Bolt SDK. SEO problems. Let's see. Not this one for sure.
Not that one.
This
okay.
Has some. What did you say? What did you say? Slack Bolt. Let's say just Slack Bolt Node.js and see what happens.
Okay. Build a Slack bot. Here's the npm page. Create a Slack bot with Node.js.
Yeah.
We're looking for the Bolt docs, right?
Yeah. Or you can go to my GitHub repo and we have, I have linked it there.
There we go. I think this is where we're.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the one. Okay.
You got to choose the right search term.
Yeah. Okay. So here, right? This is a great piece of documentation for everything else that I refer to. So one of the things that we want to look at is how to listen for homepage events. Let's see.
Listen to messages, listen to events.
Yeah, listen to events on homepage. Let's actually look at that. So updating and publishing views to app home. I think that's what they call it as.
Publishing view. Okay.
There you go. Okay. So this gives us basically it tells about the event. If you look at the code, it says app.event, app home open. That's the event name. And once the app is opened, they are pushing a view, right, of type home with some content here, like the blogs and the section, and they show how to push this, right?
Yeah, I noticed they don't have an ACK here.
What is that? Sorry.
They don't have that ACK call. In this one, we've got this await
They
ACK.
just missed it.
They just missed it?
I think they missed. I'm pretty sure.
File a bug.
Or we can see what happens, if you miss it. Yeah. So, but I think this is a good place to start, Kevin, where except that our blocks in this case, Kevin, will be, a button which says authorize with Salesforce.
Okay.
I think that's all we need to. Okay. So actually, let's go back and, I've started to also put together a proper way to do it. Just don't copy paste and put it in app.js file, because your app.js file can grow for thousands of lines of code, and then we'll be really having a tough time actually. So So there is already, if I'm not wrong, there is a user interface. Yeah, so there is a user interface where we have created a folder for models, right? Let's create a folder there and call it as app-home. Yeah, exactly. App.home. Okay. So in the app.home, obviously we will need an index.js file, right? And here, let's see. So, and we can obviously take some help from the same model docs or same format that I have in the model, right? Well, yeah. So first thing we'll do is, so you have the index.js, right? Yeah. So first thing I'll do is, so go to that who am I response.js, and maybe we want to copy down that Slack block builder first line. Yeah, yeah, this one. So maybe we want to copy that first line, Kevin, because we need that library as well in that. Yeah. Okay. And what do we have? Index.js. Let's see. Let me open that up in a sec. Give me a sec. Yeah, so we don't need the line number, like first one, we don't need it.
Okay.
Line number 3 also, we don't need. Line number 3, we might need that line number 3, but we will define our own function basically. So let's get rid of line number 1, line number 2, line number 1. Maybe it's slow on my end to update, I guess. Maybe not.
I can nuke it on this end. And we don't need the
There you
module
go.
exports. Okay.
Yeah, we will afterwards, but for now we don't need it. So we have the block builder now. Okay. So the next thing we need, Kevin, is let's create a function and call it as const app page or whatever we want to call that function. App page. What do you think? The name? Not big fan of app page as the name.
So I'm at the camp that says you should have really long function names that are descriptive. So if this is going to return the block for displaying the homepage, I would say generate homepage blocks.
Yeah, I like this, Kevin. I like this.
I sense a but coming.
Yeah, but remember that, we will be updating that view as well. Like, so our logic will be, let's say first we actually go and first time when somebody just opens the app, they will see that authorize button, right? They go, they click on that, they authorize. And at that time, what we need to do is, if the authentication is successful or they are successfully authorized, we will insert those tokens, right, into Salesforce. But for the next time, right, I don't think that will be the view, right, because we will have to check from the database that was there an authentication token already present for that user.
So maybe just generate homepage.
Yeah, so we'll be randomly. Yeah, I think that works. Basically this will be a dynamic view, is what I'm saying. It will be a dynamic view. So yeah, so that looks good. And what we will need at this point, parameters we don't know, so it could be an empty parameter, and then it returns a object, and in that object, so let's look at. I want to look at a home page. So what I want to look at is, so one of the best apps that I've found to learn and explore, it's called Tasks app from the EV team at Slack. So open an app called Slack Task app GitHub, just says. It'll point to a Slack app from the EV team. I think that's the one. Yeah. So this one, right? This is amazing app, and I've like a lot of the patterns that I'm using is actually inspired from this app. Not completely, but a lot of the patterns. So let's actually go look at one of the home pages, like how or what functions are they using to build that? So let me go.
So they're pulling in
It
2 requirements: the open tasks view and the
user interface app home. So they have 2 views, right? And the index.js basically is an export to that, and we'll cross that bridge when we come. Not that. Okay, so the first line, right, of this OpenTaskView.js file is what I'm looking at. And one of the things I'm looking at is, you see that Slack block builder, it provides you a way to construct your home tab, right?
Yep.
By giving you an so that's awesome, right? So we can import that home tab, and obviously we'll need blocks and sections as well, and we'll need actions as well, I guess, because in our case it will be an action for there will be one action at least, which will be the action on the button, authorize with Salesforce button.
I'm getting this parsing error saying the keyword constant is reserved. Do you know what?
You know what? Even I get it. You know, I get it, and I've spent a bunch of time trying to figure it out. It's in one of those ESLint configuration, and I get it even in the LWC components as well. So I don't know why that error happens, but it's a topic for its own research.
Okay.
Someday, But for now, we can forget about it. Okay. So that, and then the next thing that we want to do, obviously, is call that function, right? Like the home tabs, something like line number. I'd basically copy line number 8 to 14, and then modify that. So they have a callback ID as well. I'm pretty sure that callback ID has to be defined. Okay, so here, right? So callback ID can be task open. And what is this private metadata? What does that private metadata do? So Kevin, can you also open the docs for Slack block builder npm? So just say Slack block builder npm.
I can do that.
Yeah, and here, thank you. So here there's so this is the library that we are using. Really amazing work from the developers of this website, or developers of this npm.
I'm just going to call out Brave Cow and Ray Charias. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is awesome work. So there, I think they have this. Click on any one of the link. It will land you to a nice documentation where we will, and they get inspired from Swift UI. So Kevin, you might know, not this one though.
Heart.
I mean, they got inspired from the Swift UI.
Let's see, in-depth doc site. Here we go.
There we go.
Okay.
I love their docs though.
They're like animated, just zipped up. It's pretty.
Yeah, home tab. I think it's yes. So in the home tab, right? What I want to do is, what is this? Yeah, I want to see what is this thing? Private metadata.
Yeah.
Private metadata.
I'm gonna
have they defined.
Sets a custom identifier for a view or file that must be unique for all views on a per team basis.
Okay.
Oh wait. That adds blocks. This is the callback. That's the external ID. Okay, so this one, the private metadata, defines a string sent back to your server with view and interaction payloads.
Okay.
And while I like their doc site, it's very pretty, that is not very descriptive.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Private metadata, I'd say, is just a string. That's weird.
Well,
okay, so I think.
Sorry.
So I think it could be, for us, it could be the callback ID could be, authorize Salesforce or something, or authorization page or something like that. Now, I don't know the length of them,
We're going to find out.
We're going to find out. Private metadata, yeah, it could be something. I think private metadata is like a state, right? So when this whole thing gets rendered on the page, we have a state which says, okay, it's in the open state or it's the closed state, right? So this could be like, for us, it could be, let's say, pre-login, or I don't know what you want to call pre-login. Seems fine to me. Yeah. Okay. Now the block ID could be anything. So in our case, right? Just I think it's pre-login, I would say, or homepage, or whatever you want to call it as. We need one of those buttons, right? So let's call the button name as Authorize to Salesforce.
Yep.
Love it. And the button value, I think button value is like, what's the button value? Let's look at it. It should be in the Slack. It should be also in the Slack docs. Let's see. So
the block
builder? Block kit, yeah. The block kit will tell us what is that. I mean, it's just how they define their JSON.
Yeah, that button. And we've got params, the action ID. What is it we're looking at? The value is a string. And if we could look at the sets the value to be sent to your app when a user interacts with a button or option.
Got it. So it's more like an ID for the.
Yeah, I think this is just the ID of the. So app home auth to Salesforce.
Yeah. Action ID, I know what it is. I think that's the action that it will be triggered, basically, So I think it creates a. You know what, Kevin? So the action ID is fine, but we will need the URL there, right? I mean, it has to go and do the OAuth dance.
Yeah.
So it will be a URL.
So URL.
Yeah, and the URL for this will be okay. It's gonna be a thing. Okay, so the URL for this. Why don't we go to the Salesforce docs and say web user to user auth? It'll give us the long URL that we will need.
Web server OAuth authentication flow.
Yes. Look at that. How pretty, docs. Look at that. And there should be a URL somewhere. Let's find out. User to user auth Salesforce.
Let's see. Do we have a?
So basically, the URL will be a big chunk of URL with callback ID and the redirect URL, essentially. So let's see, user to user auth, web-based auth, right? Web-based auth. Salesforce.
Well, so hold on a second. This URL is where we want it to take us to log in, right? Or is this to start the OAuth dance on our particular server?
It's a OAuth dance on our particular server. Right?
So user agent flow, we're going to go to this URL.
User agent flow, I think we'll need the web-based OAuth flow, right, Kevin?
The web-based OAuth flow is for, is it the,
So, so what, okay, so let's come back here. So what happens is you basically go to a URL.
They're the same.
And that URL, yeah, it will be same. So I think what this is showing up is
this URL to kick it off is the same. What changes is the response type. Because in this case, it's going to be code.
So this is using the connect REST API in Salesforce. So this one, yeah, okay. Why don't you give me a minute? Just I'm looking at the docs, and
this is
here what I want to find out is one of the things that this doc misleads. Okay, so this is the right doc. Let me ping you the right documentation.
all right.
Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is how you know it's live coding. We're looking up the documentation because we're unsure of something here. All right, are you gonna Slack me that URL or Slack it to me? Slack it to me.
Slack to me. Yes, there we go. Paste. Oh, for some reason it's not pasting. Let me Slack it to you. Slack it to you on the new Slack. How about that?
On the new Slack? Okay.
I mean our workspace. There we go.
Got it. I'm going to copy that link.
So now if you look at the request, how to request an authorization code, that's what we'll be doing. Like we'll be redirecting to an authorization URL with the client ID and the redirect URI. And then it actually comes back to a redirect URI with an authorization code. Then we'll use that code to make an HTTP request to a Salesforce authorization token endpoint. And from there, it'll give us both the access token and the refresh token. It's a work. It's a big chunk of work, Kevin. And it's fun. You know, you and I
have a different understanding of fun.
It's good for us, but I'll tell you, like for a business, right? I would rather have Foyer here, which takes care of all of these under the hood as a product.
Okay, so
and not having to.
So our first kickoff is going to be a URL like this.
Yes.
Okay.
And remember, the client ID is something that we already have in the Node.js process.
And do we also already have the redirect URL?
We'll come to that. The redirect URL. Okay, the redirect URL is something that I'll tell you what will. Maybe we want to create a variable at the top and use that as a string templated variable. I would do const like have say URL or OAuth URL or something like that. Or authorization.
I'm going to say kickoff URL.
Kickoff URL, I like that better. And use the string templating, yes. And then paste it everything. And we just need to replace the redirect URI there, and also the redirect URI will be. Okay, this is one of the things we need to think through. So the redirect URI, Kevin, will be both. It will be localhost for our local development, but for the Heroku URL, it will be Heroku instance URL. So we'll cross that point later on. Maybe we'll have to create an environment variable or something like that. We'll think through that. But first, let's get that templated string out there and see how this thing actually works and renders. We'll cross the bridge as we come along.
Okay, so we've got. I've got the process environment, but I don't know.
Oh, so it's pretty simple. Let me see if I can.
Because we don't have in the config, we don't have the URL. Oh, we have login URL. Is that what we need? That makes sense.
It's not login URL. Yeah, it's the login URL actually.
And then slash.
It should be the login.
And then we're gonna need. I'm gonna copy and paste this here.
So login.salesforce.com. That variable, yes. And then
get rid of that.
Yeah.
And that's going to be process.env.client ID. Is it client ID all lowercase, client capital I?
Yep.
And then the redirect URL we need to figure out.
Yeah, so the redirect URL will be localhost. It will be HTTP HTTP, not TPS, obviously. And it'll be, I think, localhost with the port 3000. That's what I would. Yeah, and it will be /OAuth/callback, and maybe we will have to create this as a route, and that is one of the steps we'll need to do, because what will happen is we need, so the localhost 3000 exists today as a Node.js, right?
Yeah, that's our Node app.
/OAuth/callback response does not exist today, and that would be a route. So generally what happens, Kevin, is if you've used something like Express server on Node.js has a very popular thing called Express. Every Node.js app uses this library called Express, and Express allow you to say, okay, I want these routes for my app.
Yeah,
like these subdomains kind of. So this is the same concept, but I think Slack uses Express under the hood.
Okay.
So there should be a way for us to expose some kind of a custom route to the Slack, but we'll cross that bridge later. First,
Okay.
we'll get the OAuth dance working at least, and have everything redirected to that specific URL. Then we'll create the route, and that route page will have all other stuff. Okay, so how do you feel about this code? It's all good, except we don't call this anywhere, right? Let's look at this code. Just give me a sec. Okay, I'm looking at my Visual Studio code that you have.
Okay, those are backticks.
So, yeah, so generate homepage is what we just need to call that. And where would we call? So, yeah, we can call that directly.
Just
so generate home page is the home tab. So that should be tied back to remember we copy pasted, or basically we copied some Bolt code, right? So we need like a handler to handle that, right? So this is fine. This will build all the JSON string for us, the view for us basically, but that view needs to get called inside a function which basically listens for that app event. So that could go inside a listener. So let's actually create a, so we have listener as the shortcut, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what the task app does for app home listening. Do they create another folder? Which,
let's find out.
Let's see. So they create a folder called views. Views is okay. Okay, they create a folder called views or events. Okay, so they create a folder called events inside listener. Maybe we want to do that, Kevin.
Okay, so under listeners,
so
events.
Yeah, let's create a folder, subfolder called events.
Okay.
Yeah, and then let's see.
I assume we need an index.js.
Yeah, index.js is how we want to export and register. Before that, it could be a file, or it could be a simple file like call it as app home pre-login.js or something like that.
Instead of index?
So here's how everything is structured. So in your, actually you have this whole directory, right? Inside this directory, you can have like multiple of these functions. Like let's say your app homepage is opened, or let's say it's closed, and it has multiple states. So index is something that basically exports everything off. So it's just like a what do you call dispatcher?
Okay.
Let's say dispatcher kind of a pattern, right? Where you create bunch of things, and then you have one single dispatcher. That's your index.js, where you say, okay, I want to dispatch these things, or I want to listen, right? So maybe in
the shortcuts section, it has the who am I callback, and that's going to require the who am I file, and in that file, then we're going to define our response, etc. So to mirror that for our events, we've got an index file that is going to require the app home response module.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm trying to, so that it's going to export and register this.
Yeah.
Okay. So to register this, I'm just gonna copy this line.
Mm-hmm.
And
Perfect.
I'm gonna say app home callback.
Uh-huh.
And I'm gonna change this to be app home callback.
Yep.
And then
makes sense.
This shortcuts one, we've got a module exports. I know what module exports does, but what I'm not familiar with is what it means to pass app in. Is that registering this module exports in the app namespace?
No. Oh. So the app is something, Kevin. So if you go to the app.js file in the, here, right? So remember at the top, there you go. That's the app. And that has all the things like what Slack does. It just gives you you can think of that as a class, think of that as a class. And that has all sorts of methods. In this case, it's functions basically. So we're just passing the class back and forth, kind of. And I like this pattern because once you have this in place, it becomes so easy to, kind of add functionalities or debug the whole experience. It becomes really easy. Now, one of the things I don't like about this, the way they do the require here, not complaining, but there's better ways to do that actually than having to, put require inside of an object. If you look at, I think I avoid that at user interface. If you look at my modal, right, I avoid it by just exporting explicitly the functions.
Oh,
so
yeah.
So you see, we can just use model.exports. So you can explicitly require and export that, and then it becomes really easy to import. And I think for this one, it's fine as long as this way also it's fine. But I think this way should be fine. But what I don't like is when you put the require inside an object. They don't have strict ESLint here in the task app, but if there is a lint, the lint will complain saying you cannot put a require statements like that on an object.
Well, let's do it like you have. So you've just got this module exports equals your constant. So if we just do module.export, and then like you have here, it's just equals and then an object. App home callback, like that.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think it's just the. What did it like? Is it because you cannot have dashes like that?
Is it?
I don't know. I never seen someone using dashes like that. But
I never like.
Especially in the variables.
The world would be a better place if all software development languages could all decide to use the same capitalization and naming conventions. All right, let's try that.
Yeah.
All right, so that's better.
Okay.
That's better.
Perfect. But how are we? Okay, so this is better. Yeah, this is awesome. So where's that app home callback? Let's actually go to that.
I actually haven't created this file. So in our events, we need to create a new file, and I call it app home callback.js. Okay, blank file.
Yep. And then this file is the one that will have the registration of the function. Basically, let's say it will pass down that app object, and that app object has all this client event and other stuff. So.
Yeah, okay, you get to type this one because I'm a little lost.
let's see. So let me actually go to.
I'm going to let you type this, and then I'm going to like observe and then ask questions here. And ladies and gentlemen tuning in from home, I just want to remind you this is pre-recorded, so unfortunately we can't answer your questions live. But if you want to, you can leave comments on the YouTube video page, and we will respond to those and write back to you there. We also have a Slack channel set up. You can find that Slack channel in the description. The link to join the Slack channel in that description, and you can ask us questions there as well. So with that said, Mohit, take over here.
Okay, so here, so let's look at from the beginning, Kevin, because I'm also kind of a little lost. So here's how we do it, right? So we have our registered listeners, basically.
Okay, hold on a second.
You
are on a file that I am not displaying to everyone. There we go.
Okay. Is it fine now?
Yep, you're fine.
Okay. So so we start with app.js, and the app.js is the one that has all the lovely stuff like clients and the way to acknowledgement, the way to receive shortcuts, etc. So somehow we need to first actually register all the listeners there, right? Any listeners that happen. So that's why we have something called as listeners, which is basically a file, right?
Okay.
Let me actually close this. So here in the register listeners, right? We go and say, okay, shortcut listeners, right? Dot register the app, right? So we require shortcuts, and then we say shortcut listener and register the app. Okay. So similarly, so that was for all the listeners, right? But this was only for the shortcut, right? Only for the shortcut folder we are listening. Now let's add one for app home page listener. How about that? So app home page listener. Now this will go back to, I think, what did we call? We call it as events, right?
Events, yeah.
Okay, instead of app page listener, I'm gonna say events listener, events listener. And then this actually goes to
events.
It goes back to the whole events. For some reason, Kevin, usually when I do a dot and say slash, it gives me all the folders. But I don't know why.
I'm guessing that's probably an extension you have installed that I don't know about, because if I knew about it, I would install it too.
Okay, interesting. So now we register your event listener dot register and register the app. Okay. Now here's the thing, right? So we don't have so in this case, in the shortcut, right, we have the shortcut listeners kind of defined in the shortcuts here, right? This piece of the code. Now we need to make sure we have something like that for the events as well, right? So events, you have this. I'm gonna just copy paste. Give me a sec. Copy paste the registration here and put it in the index.js. Sorry, index.js. What was that?
I think you want this one.
Index.js. Yeah, index.js, and we just put it here, right? So here we registered that, and one important thing to note is here in this case we were so what we were doing here in the previous case, which was the shortcuts, was let's see. So in the shortcut, we were passing the app.shortcut, and we were passing the callback ID and the callback function, right? So who am I? Callback is a callback function.
Okay.
So in this case, right, in this events case, right, it won't be a shortcut, right? It's something else. and that's where we need to go to the docs. Now, I don't know, my screen won't be shared, right?
No,
if I
it won't.
move back to the docs.
But is that
Go back to the Bolt doc, and I think it's called app.event. We are already there. It's already there. It's called app.event.
app.event?
There you go. App.event and app home event, right? So we're gonna say app.event like this, right? And this one will be called what's it called?
app_home_opened.
Thank you. So app_home_opened. And now this callback is the app home callback here. Okay. So you see from the top, we pass down the app, we register all the listeners, and we make sure that it's listening to the app home event. And when that happens, there's an app home callback to take an action on, right? So app home callback is where we actually go and code the logic, right? So let's again copy the. So this is where we can go ahead and create. So first thing I would like to do, Kevin, here, and sorry, this is how my brain actually works, is I just export it,
Okay.
module.exports, because
Otherwise,
that way I'm like, otherwise I'm like, okay, what am I doing, right? So app home callback, as you can see, I have the app home callback, and that callback is coming from this, and that is already sort of exported. Now I know that that's my function, right? So now I'll have a function called const, have a function, and that function takes parameters, and then it actually returns something, right? Now this, you see this error where it says, I think it's a linting error.
Yeah,
right?
It says const is a reserved word.
Yeah, const is a reserved word or something. So now, Kevin, here, right? So here we have this. So just like here, right? You have this whole. So the callback will have this whole thing with us, and that's where it's really interesting. So you see, we have this now.
Okay.
The top here is where I, in case I need any libraries like Salesforce libraries, I will import. But here is where I can write that logic. Or so in this case, I think for app home event, let me open the docs again. And if you don't mind opening that, Kevin, I think it's only event and clients that gets passed, and that's all we need. So we need acknowledgement also. And we thought,
we have event and client.
Yeah, so we need events and client. And what we need to do here, I'm gonna copy a bunch of code and see if that actually gets copied here or not. Yeah, exactly. Yes, perfect. And I can copy. There you go. So I just copy pasted the code from that. Sorry, what was that acknowledgement? We need the acknowledgement.
I put it up here. We do need it there? Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, it doesn't know. And we need this. This is coming from the event, so we know which user it is. And in fact, we'll be using this to know the user ID and storing that in Salesforce. But for the view, I think we don't need all these things because we created that. So I think this whole part can go away. I think we create the thing creates all of these, I guess.
Yeah, but we had already put together. Let's see, where had we put that?
Yeah, and we need to just import that basically. So all we do here is import. Let's see, import
user interface.
Yeah, what was it called? User interface.
Well, the directory is called user-interface /app-home.
Yeah.
But the actual app home one, the module is called. We actually don't have a module. We just have a function called generate.
It doesn't have a
homepage.
Yeah. Let's export that as a module. So Which one was that? Module, this one. Where was that? This one, right? So module dot exports equals generate home, right?
Yep.
Okay, now we can import that generate home in this shortcuts, or no, not shortcuts. So we were
The app home callback.
Oh yeah, this is where we are coding, right? So const and const require is called generate home, and this is where I rely so much on my features.
Yeah.
Where it just I think we'll figure it out, but there's one easier way I'll do that. So what was the file here? It's called this one, right?
Yeah.
App home. Oh, there you go. Thanks for doing that. Yeah. Index.
Do I want index or do I want? Yeah, I want index.
You want index actually, because that's the index, right? And we will see if there is a better way to get rid of them. Generally, I try to not use the index. Have something that exports it, but anyways, it should. The moment we have more files, it's usually
A pain. Now,
okay.
Mo, you're not gonna believe this. We've actually gone through our hour here. We are at time. But
Okay.
here's what we're gonna do. We're going to get this app homepage working, and we're going to put a bunch of comments in the code, and we're going to put it in GitHub so that you can follow along at home. And then in the next week, we'll finish off this per user authentication, and then we can really start to build our application. This per user authentication is really the last foundational step we need for a fully functional integration app. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I know you've got many choices in your edutainment, and thank you for choosing Code Live. Mo, thank you very much for joining me, and we will be back next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Thank you much.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.